Hi, my name is Jeff Riley, and I'm the CEO of Synthetic Biologics. Historically, I've been with both SmithKline Beecham, Pfizer, a hedge fund called Queensland Investment Corporation based out of Brisbane, Australia, several smaller biotech companies, and most recently Synthetic Biologics for the past 4 years. It's a fairly new area of research, but we're finding that things as different as autism, a variety of CNS diseases, Alzheimer's, etc., may have a connection to altering the microbiome, as well as a variety of GI-related diseases, celiac, irritable bowel disease, Clostridium difficile, etc. It changes actually fairly rapidly. In the very beginning, we get our first 40 to 60 species as we're being born and passing through the birthing canal. We then acquire a variety of other species as we get older. Unfortunately, as we take antibiotics, it knocks off the weaker species. So in reality, when you look at somebody that's never had an antibiotic and somebody that has, there's almost a 50% differential between the number of actual species between those two different groups of folks. And it really depends on the speciation in those different group folks as to what happens downstream, both neurologically as well as metabolically. Okay. There's a specific organism that lives in your small intestine. The name is Methanobrevibacter smithii, or smithii for short. These organisms are archaeans. They're not bacteria. They're a separate tree from a different tree of life. These, part of their energy cycle is they scavenge carbons and hydrogens, stick them together to make a CH4 molecule, which is methane gas. If you have a predominance of these in your intestinal tract, it can cause constipation, as well as obesity and potentially even higher levels of glucose, which can cause pre-diabetic conditions or even diabetes in some cases. So the excessive amount of methane gas we've shown recently in a phase 2 study is directly correlated to all of these symptoms. Irritable bowel syndrome, constipation is specifically bloating, pain, and 2 or less bowel movements per week is the clinical definition. And we found in our phase 2 study that we can fix the problem, the underlying cause, and not just treat the symptoms for these patients. SYN-10 is the name of our drug. It is a form of lovastatin lactone that we have specially formulated to stay in the gut for as long as humanly possible. This particular molecule basically interrupts that process. It's originally derived from Aspergillus, which is a fungus that lives in swamps and nasty places, and was isolated roughly 25 years ago by a scientist specifically for the use of reduction in methane gas in cattle. It didn't work very well in cattle because, again, they're ruminants, but it works exceptionally well based upon our phase 2 data we just have in humans. We just completed the 2 phase 2 studies. We're going to have an end of phase 2 discussion with the FDA in the first half of this year. We'll be starting the phase 3 toward the second half of this year. Obviously, the phase 3 will be dictated over how it's designed, both by ourselves and our internal folks, as well as FDA feedback. But we hope to have data sometime in the first half of next year on that particular phase 3 study. The outcome will be a reduction in methane gas, specifically as a biomarker. In addition to that, the actual FDA regulatory requirements, which are reduction in the combination of symptoms associated with IBS constipation. Our second phase 2 drug is called SYN-004. This particular drug is an enzyme, a protein, that is enterically coated, and it's designed specifically to protect your GI tract from the nasty effects of antibiotics. So in theory, we all have had several rounds of antibiotics in our lives, both IV and oral. The problem, again, is that these antibiotics do their job. They kill the pathogen or the infection, but they also kill all the good bugs as well. And the majority of the good bugs in your system live in your intestinal tract. So what you really want to do is you want to be able to give patients those antibiotics because they're absolutely necessary, but you want to protect the good bugs as well. And that's exactly what our enzyme does. It protects the good bugs. In addition to that, it knocks down antibiotic resistance because it doesn't set up an environment where the strong survive and the weak die. And it also eliminates antibiotic-associated diarrhea. Again, if you don't have diarrhea, you're probably not going to have C. diff infection or all the other plethora of things that are associated with wiping out a variety of the good bugs in your system. SYN-4, we will be releasing phase 2A data on that drug here in the next few weeks. In addition to that, we're in the middle of a phase 2 study in roughly 50, 60 sites around the world. We'll be releasing that data or finishing that study up in the second quarter of this year. And obviously, we're we'll release top-line data thereafter. Again, we'll have an end-of-phase 2 discussion with the FDA, and then we'll move into phase 3 toward the latter part of this year. So by the end of this year, we should have 2 revolutionary paradigm-breaking drugs in phase 3s that treat $2 billion plus markets. Yeah, we have one other drug. It's for pertussis or pertussis bordetella, whooping cough. I think that's been in the news a lot recently. The vaccines just don't work that well anymore. We have a monoclonal antibody that binds to the toxins that bug creates. This program is currently partnered with Intrexon. In addition to that, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is funding this program. It is in late preclinical. We hope to be in the clinic and in humans hopefully by early next year. But that is a revolutionary program that's not even therapeutic. It's not only a therapeutic, but it also appears to work as a prophylaxis as well. 300,000 babies die around the world annually from this disease, not so much in the industrialized world, which is, again, why the Gates Foundation is interested in this particular program to help kids and hopefully knock down some of those infection rates. We have raised enough cash last year to get us through all of these phase 2s we're running today. We will have to probably raise more cash in the not too distant future, but we are in partnering discussions as well with pharma, so we may be able to pull in some non-dilutive capital in addition to potentially doing a raise when the time merits.